When Clint Eastwood sat down for an interview on the Unfiltered Truth with Madison Steel, the audience expected another typical Hollywood debate. What they didn't know was that Madison, young, sharp, and known for tearing apart conservative icons, was about to make the biggest mistake of her career. Madison Steel had spent 5 years perfecting her ruthless gotcha-style journalism. She'd already taken down senators, CEOs, and controversial figures, and now she had Clint Eastwood, a 94-year-old conservative legend. He was the perfect target, an icon of old-school masculinity whose values Madison deemed outdated. This wasn't just an interview. It was her chance to make history. The studio buzzed with anticipation. Madison, with her flawless makeup and steely confidence, was ready. Clint, in contrast, moved slowly, but his presence filled the room. What caught Madison's eye, though, was a small silver cross hanging from his neck. This was her opening. Religion, especially the kind Clint represented, was a topic Hollywood rarely touched, and she saw an easy angle. Clint Eastwood, out of touch with modern America. As the interview began, Madison, eager for the viral moment, leaned forward with a smirk. She gestured toward the cross and casually asked, "Clint, I have to ask, what's with the cross?" "Didn't peg you for the jewelry type." The audience chuckled lightly, sensing the setup. They knew this wasn't just a playful joke. It was Madison's challenge. But Clint didn't flinch. He didn't react the way she expected. Instead, he smiled. Not the nervous or forced smile, but one that said, "I've heard this all before." The room fell into an uneasy silence. Madison pressed on, trying to regain control. "Come on, Clint, you've built a career as the tough guy, the cowboy. And yet, here you are, wearing a cross like some choir boy." The audience laughed, some clapping. Madison saw the producers at the back of the room preparing the clip for social media. She was ready for the headlines. "Hollywood legend caught in a time warp." But Clint didn't react. He simply watched her, unmoved. Then, in his unmistakable gravelly voice, Clint spoke. "You think it's funny." His words weren't loud, but they cut through the room. Madison chuckled, trying to maintain control, but it was different now. Her confidence faltered and she backpedaled. Faith isn't exactly Hollywood's favorite subject these days. Her smile faltered and she tried to steer the conversation back. But Clint wasn't playing along. His eyes locked onto hers, unwavering, his posture steady. "That's why I don't care what Hollywood thinks," he said, his words heavy with conviction. The room shifted. Madison had no response. For the first time, she was speechless. Clint didn't need to argue. He simply let the silence speak for him. The audience, once expecting Madison's victory, now found themselves stunned by Clint's unshakable resolve. Slowly, Clint lifted the silver cross from his neck, holding it up for the cameras. It gleamed in the light, symbolizing a strength that couldn't be swayed by modern opinions or viral moments. The shift was complete. Madison had lost, not because of what she had asked, but because Clint Eastwood had turned the interview into a masterclass on conviction and faith. The silence in the studio was deafening, and Madison Steel, the once untouchable interviewer, was left without a soundbite. Clint Eastwood's fingers ran over the worn edges of the cross necklace, and he simply said, "This was my father's. He wore it every day of his life. When he passed, I kept it." The audience, once eager to laugh, had fallen silent. Madison Steel, caught off guard, realized this wasn't the answer she expected. Clint continued, not to convince anyone, but to share his truth. He spoke slowly, the weight of his words settling in the room. "It reminds me of who I am." The energy in the room shifted. What he had just said wasn't just about him, it was about the audience. And then came the line that cut through everything. "Some people wear jewelry to show off. Others wear it because it means something." Madison sat stunned. The laughter that had filled the studio moments ago was now replaced by an uncomfortable silence. She tried to regain control, forcing a laugh that felt too bright, too rehearsed. "I wasn't trying to be disrespectful, Clint," she said, her tone defensive. "I just think it's an interesting choice for someone like you." But Clint wasn't playing along. "You wouldn't have mocked it if it was any other symbol," he said, his words firm and calm. The audience murmured, and Madison knew he was right. She couldn't admit it, but she knew. Madison Steel had spent years perfecting her technique for handling moments like this. She leaned back in her chair, trying to soften her posture, to steer the conversation back to a place she could control. "Look, I respect faith," she said, her voice almost diplomatic. "I just think we've moved past needing things like that." Clint didn't flinch. "Moved past needing faith," he repeated, letting the words linger. He locked eyes with her, unwavering. Then the question that hit like a bullet. "Tell me something, sweetheart. What do you believe in?" For the first time, Madison stumbled. The cameras caught the flicker of hesitation. She didn't have the perfectly polished response ready. Clint saw it and then delivered the knockout line. "If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything." The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was final. The moment that started as a joke had now become something more. Madison, thinking she was setting the trap, realized too late that Clint Eastwood had already closed it. Before the interview even wrapped, before Madison had a chance to spin the conversation, the internet exploded. The clip went viral, not just trending, but everywhere. "If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything," became the rallying cry. The reactions poured in. Some mocked Madison, others defended her, but the truth was undeniable. Clint Eastwood had won. The media scrambled to spin the interview, but the moment was too powerful, too real. Some outlets minimized it, calling it a generational misunderstanding, but others admitted that Madison had lost control. The network even pulled the interview from their main page, not wanting to give further platform to Clint's undeniable victory. A week later, a reporter found Clint outside a cafe in Carmel, California, hoping for a statement. Holding his coffee, Clint paused before replying with a smirk, "Nope," and walked away. No justifications, no explanations, just confidence in his beliefs. Real legends don't explain themselves. They don't fight for approval. They stand for what they believe in. And that's why Clint Eastwood had already won.